All systems go. Check it out.
You're listening to Fight Society with Damon Martin and Jeremy Loper.
Check it out.
Yep. Come one, come all. Get in here, guys. It is the Fight Society podcast with me, Jeremy Loper, and this is my podcast colleague, Damon Martin.
The professional intro, I like it.
That's right, man.
We're all about professionalism here.
Yeah, can we?
Everything we do here is professional, people.
Listen to how buttoned up this is.
You're listening to Fight Society with Damon Martin and Jeremy Loper.
Does it get better than that? I mean, come on. Who is that chick?
Professional.
Well, welcome back to another week. It's awesome to have everybody. It's so cool to have the opportunity to come into your car and your ears and your, well, I don't want to come in your ear, but to be able to podcast inside of your brain.
We're going to come in your ear.
Just going to fucking blow huge loads in your ears, guys, okay? Just don't freak out. It's going to happen. Let it happen because you know what? At the end, we're all going to be more knowledgeable.
It's eargasms. That's what we provide. We provide eargasms.
Let me ask you something before we start to talk about fighting. Would you? I know you're not married, but you and your chick live together, and you have for for quite a long time.
Yeah.
Let's say you're together another 10 years.
Okay.
And God forbid something happens to her. Would you have her made into a sex doll to look just like her? Because you can do it now in Japan.
They do everything in Japan. Let's just put that out there right now. They do a lot. They do a lot of crazy shit in Japan. Let's just be honest about that. No, I wouldn't do. The sex dolls in general are creepy enough. I wouldn't.
Are they?
Yeah,
I think they are too. Yeah. So they say this dude, a spokesman for the company, says it makes sense because only 10 to 20% is actually physical engagement with the dolls. Most of the customers are just looking for companionship and a loving touch and a warm embrace. Which I don't know which freaks me out more. The fact that you want to walk around with a doll, or you just want
buy a dog, something. Would you? You're married. You've been with your wife longer than I've been with my girlfriend. I've been with my girlfriend for a long time. Would you make a carbon copy of your wife to have around the house? Because that's just creepy to me.
What if somebody gave it to me?
No.
Can I go into a situation where I get it for free?
No.
Imagine if it's for free, then I would keep it.
Imagine inviting someone over to your house for like dinner, and then they walk in, and there's like a mannequin of your wife, like sitting in the corner or sitting at the dinner table. Even worse.
My wife's name is Randy. They'll be like, "Oh my God, Randy's back from the dead." No, don't worry. That's just the mannequin that I do at nighttime. Don't freak out or anything. I mean, don't jump to conclusions, man.
Panic. It's just a life-size replica of her that I do at night. It's not a big deal.
You're going to jump to conclusions like she's back alive.
Now, do these dolls, do they allow you to record voices and like put voices in them? Because that would take it a whole other notch. Like you record your person's voice before they die and you put it in.
Well, if you're marketing it to guys, that would probably be an option for no. You don't want to hear them talk. That is not what we're in for. More conversation.
No, I'm talking about they're saying that it's for companionship, but we all know what it's really for.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah, like some sound effects. You know what I mean? Like, who wants?
Let me tell you something. You've taken this to a really creepy place, man.
I am. I'm curious. Like you opened the door, I'm gonna walk through it.
So tell me what you think about this. This whole deal that is going on between Paulie Malignaggi and the Conor McGregor camp. He's straight blaming Dana White now. There's people all over Reddit, on the UG, everywhere. People are calling out Dana on this one. Where do you stand and why?
Well,
you think the video's edited? Because that's what Paulie's claiming.
Well, of course it's edited to a certain extent because they're only showing like 10-second clips.
But let's be real. The editing that he's talking about, where it's manipulating the actual footage of what happened during that sparring session.
I don't think so. I mean, it's fight footage. He has two different angles of the knockdown. The one facing the knockdown and the one from the back of the knockdown. And I don't really know what more you want. I mean, you're not... They led the sequence up to that. I don't really know what more you need to see. I mean, we don't have a lot of context. Like, was Conor getting beat up for the entire round, and then he just put together that one good combination that kind of knocked Paulie down? I don't know. I think Dana said in an interview yesterday, I'm not Steven Spielberg. I just put a clip up, and I understand where Conor's coming from, not wanting the entire 12-round clip to go up because he's getting ready for a fight with Floyd Mayweather. I mean,
yeah, right.
Fighters don't put out sparring footage. That's not uncommon. The fact that even 20 seconds is out there is actually kind of uncommon. But I don't know, man. People are breaking down this video like the Zapruder film from JFK and stuff, like, slowing it down. And did he push him? And was it a knockdown? I thought it was a knockdown. Now, I'm not a boxing expert by any stretch of the imagination. I'll leave that to the actual boxing experts out there. But to me, it looked like a knockdown. It wasn't a vicious knockdown. It wasn't a knockout. It wasn't like he knocked him down and Paulie rolled over on his face.
Yeah, he just knocked him down.
Yeah, it was he clipped him. He clipped him with a little short punch and he dropped. I don't know. I thought it was a knockdown. I'm not a referee and I don't know how it would have been scored, but in my opinion, it was a knockdown.
All right, that's Damon's opinion. Somebody's opinion that I really respect. Another guy's opinion that I do not respect is Skip Bayless.
Oh, God.
Now, he used to be on ESPN. Now he's on Fox Sports 1. And he does a show with
Shannon Sharp,
right? Who's a former football player.
And they were talking about Conor. They were talking about Conor and Floyd, but then the conversation dipped over into Conor and Nate Diaz.
And then this is where Skip started showing his expertise in the fight game.
This is where they really showed how much they know about mixed martial arts.
Skip is a black belt, I thought.
What happened? How did he start when Nate Diaz got him?
Huh?
The first fight against Nate Diaz.
Speaking of fighting a bigger man, a guy who outweighed him by, I'm going to guess, 40 pounds.
First of all, anytime somebody goes, huh, you're lying.
What happened? How did he start when Nate Diaz got him?
Huh?
The first fight against Nate Diaz.
Speaking of fighting a bigger man, a guy who outweighed him by, I'm going to guess, 40 pounds.
40
and
pounds.
had, 5 inches of reach on him and got him on the ground. It's called wrestling.
Oh, really?
Sumo-style wrestling.
Oh, wow.
And he just pinned him. He pinned him.
Oh, how did he get him on the ground? He put them things
Hooked
on him
the
first
leg.
to knock him down,
He
and
didn't
then
knock him down. He got a hold of him and dragged him down.
Yeah.
See, this is MMA fighting.
I love these guys, man. Like, can we just sit here and clown on this show all day long? First of all, this Skip Bayless, it's pretty common knowledge out there that he's made this pick with Conor McGregor to assert some controversy. This is sort of what he's known for, right? I don't watch a lot of these sports shows.
He's a professional troll. I guess that's the best way to say it.
But he's on TV, not the internet, right?
He's a professional troll. He says things to piss people off and get people buzzing about it. Whether he believes it or not, he says it, and people start talking about it. That's what a troll does. That's you troll somebody, you say something outlandish and try to get them to react, and that's what he does. He says outlandish things.
He's like the Alex Jones of sports.
Yeah, exactly. He's out there. He's like, listen, LeBron James.
I don't know about 40 pounds, man, that Nate had on Conor.
So I dug up
quite a bit.
This interview bugged me so much on so many levels. Not the least of which is the whole Fox Sports connection. Not to sound bitter,
right?
But so I looked up. I did an interview with Nate Diaz after the first Conor fight, and I looked it up. Nate told me that on the day of the fight, when he left his hotel room to go fight Conor McGregor, he weighed 179 pounds.
Okay.
So he was 9 pounds heavier than the welterweight limit, which is normal. And that was after he was on vacation in Mexico, all that stuff. Nate Diaz also does not have a 5-inch reach advantage over Conor. He has a 2-inch reach advantage over Conor.
If I'm not mistaken, Conor weighed in a pound under.
He was like
169.
168, I think.
Okay.
And then Nate was 171.
All right.
For the weigh-in. But then so he weighed 179 for the fight. And probably a little less than that because that was in the morning, obviously. By the time he warmed up and actually stepped into the octagon, he's probably like 176, 175, something like that. Nate Diaz is not. I mean, everyone's talking how big he is. He's not that big. He's tall, but he's not that big. He fought at welterweight before, and Rory McDonald and Dong Hyun Kim said, "You're not a welterweight." When they ragdolled him around the octagon, and he went back to lightweight. He's a lightweight. He's a natural lightweight. So he has a 2-inch reach advantage over Conor. He had, hypothetically, let's say an 11-pound advantage if Conor's 168 and doesn't put on an ounce after the weigh-ins, and Nate weighed 179, 11 pounds. And my favorite comment of all was sumo-style wrestling.
Sumo-style wrestling.
So he turned into the Yokozuna from the WWE, and took him down. Now, first off, he didn't take him down. Conor got hit up on the feet, and then he went for an ill-advised takedown, and Nate sprawled out and then reversed the position when he got him down, and he obviously got the mount.
I'm sure it wasn't sumo style, man.
I mean, there's just so much wrong in that one clip of information. It's like literally when I heard it, my head just started spinning. I was like, did you watch the fight? I mean, I understand they probably don't watch the fights, but clearly they didn't watch the fights. He didn't take him down, and he certainly didn't use sumo-style wrestling. What the hell is sumo-style wrestling?
He had, 5 inches of reach on him and got him on the ground. It's called wrestling, sumo-style wrestling, and he just pinned him. He pinned him.
Well, how'd he get him on the ground? He put them things on him first to knock him down, and then
he didn't knock him down. He got a hold of him and dragged him.
Had to put them things on him.
He got a hold of him and dragged him down.
I mean, who's got better commentary, Skip Bayless or Snoop Dogg?
Huh?
It's like Kermit the Frog walked in. Huh?
The first fight.
Too much fun.
It's so bad. It's so bad.
Well, when you want to weigh in like a professional and you want to fancy yourself as some sort of professional, maybe you should know a little bit about the sport before you cover it, or make way for people that do know what's up with the sport.
I don't talk about golf.
Right, exactly.
Because I don't know anything about golf. I know you take a stick and you hit a ball and it goes in a hole. I understand the concept of a birdie, of a par, of a bogey, of a hole in one. I know that kind of stuff. But if you wanted me to go on a show and intelligently break down what happens at the PGA Tour Championship, I'm not your guy. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay not being your guy for golf. Same thing with soccer. I'm not a soccer guy. Never have been. I can understand it when I watch the World Cup, or if I go to a Columbus Crew game. I can understand what's happening. But if you want to put me on TV and you're going to ask me to be the expert to break down what happened, I'm not your guy. And I'm okay admitting that.
Yeah, he's not.
He's clearly not. Sumo-style wrestling, Loper.
Yeah, sumo-style wrestling is just not going to cut it, man.
Huh?
Skip, what do you think about that sumo style he was displaying the other night? I mean, it was just beyond. It was beyond my expectations of the fight. You really think Nate Diaz had like what? What do you say? Like 180 weight? Like 180 pound weight advantage, something like that. Yeah, not much.
40 pounds. That's how much bigger Brock Lesnar will be than John Jones.
He was at least 2,000 pounds bigger than Conor McGregor that night. I mean, the guy was just dwarfing him. It just seems to me that they've got this narrative and they have this in their head that that's the way it really went down, and they keep running with it because this is not the first time that we've heard this.
Oh, no. This is not the first time. This is just the most recent and probably the most egregious occasion with, like, they've got it wrong before, but this is amazingly wrong. Like, there's levels of wrong. Like, yes, you can just be wrong.
Yeah, like when you tell somebody there's levels to this shit.
There's levels to this shit.
And that is amazingly wrong.
You can be wrong about something, and then there's a level to how wrong you can be. And these guys were, you wrong, Rhonda, you wrong. They're wrong. They're wrong.
So wrong.
So wrong. Somebody posted the clip like last week and I listened to the whole thing. It's like a 5-minute clip. And like by the end of it, my eyes were wide, my jaw's on the floor. And I'm just like, I cannot believe these two idiots are being paid to talk about this on television. Now, if I want to know about football, I'm not saying they're like the most knowledgeable guys in the history of sports, because I'm quite sure a lot of people would argue with me to say they're not. But Shannon Sharp, of course, phenomenal tight end, great football player, and Skip Bayless, for as much of a loudmouth blowhard as he is these days, he actually did like kind of come up as like a real sports journalist. I think it was in like San Jose and then eventually in Dallas when he covered the Cowboys. So he's like,
but none of these guys know anything about our sport. You know that.
Here's the thing. MMA,
except for what's his name? What's the dude's name that works at Fox with the bald head?
Jay Glazer.
Yeah, he's cool.
Yeah, he trains. He actually trains.
Yeah.
But like MMA is one of those sports that's one of the reasons why MMA, and this is probably going to piss off some people, why MMA is always going to be to a certain extent a niche sport, because there are a lot of levels to it. There's a lot to understand. It's not just two guys go out there, throw hands, and one of them falls over. That's a tough man competition. And it's not a grappling competition. It's a combination. So you have to know the sport. You have to understand it. You have to educate yourself on the sport, just like with wrestling, jiu-jitsu, all the different aspects of the sport. There's a lot to it. That I always compare MMA to soccer and NASCAR. Soccer, yeah, you're kicking the ball around, I understand, but there's so many levels to soccer in terms of like the penalties, in terms of, offsides and all the different things that go into soccer. There's stuff that, like I said, I'm not a soccer guy.
Yeah, you got to bring it in,
NASCAR, in the most relative terms, NASCAR is people going around in the left circle, you know what I mean? But there's more to it with drafting and tires and, gas and everything else that goes into it. I'm not a NASCAR guy, and I'm okay with that, but I admit it.
Yeah.
And that's what MMA is. MMA is very much that kind of sport where you can watch it as a casual fan and enjoy it. I'm not saying people shouldn't enjoy it. But if you really want to be an expert, or at least claim to be an expert, there is a lot of study that goes into it.
Huh?
Exactly. And I don't think Skip has done much research.
Huh?
The last time I heard someone mention sumo style wrestling was when Emmanuel Yarborough fought in UFC 1 and got his face punted across the octagon.
I don't know. I think he was about to give him the stink face.
I actually put
Rikishi style. Man.
I actually said last week, I think Nate Diaz's next walkout song should be the Yokozuna theme song.
Yeah, exactly.
Huh?
All right, so you got to sit down with a couple of people and have some conversations. First, we're going to get updated on the Floyd Conor situation with an expert.
I was so excited about this. So we're going to talk right now to Dominick Cruz, former bantamweight champion, arguably the greatest bantamweight champion of all time, one of the best analysts in the sport. When I thought about who could we talk to break down Mayweather and McGregor that would have all aspects covered, MMA, boxing, just a real expert. I don't know that there's anyone better at breaking down a fight in this sport than Dominick Cruz. So as soon as it happened, I had to get Dominick on the show. And we're privileged enough. This week we're going to have Dominick Cruz. Next week we're going to have a special guest as well. We're going to talk to Dan Hardy, who is actually calling the fight for Sky Sports in England and
That's
in
amazing.
Europe. So we're going to have him on next week. But this week we got Dominick Cruz breaking down the fight. Listening to this guy, when you talk to Dominick, one of the reasons I love interviewing Dominick, not only is because he's so good at what he does, but he is such a great analyst that I learn listening to him, and I love it. So I'm not going sumo style wrestling and going,
Damon Martin, one-on-one with Dominick Cruz here on Fight Society Podcast.
Dom, what's going on, buddy? How are you?
Oh, I'm good.
I appreciate taking time to come on the show and then break down this fight, man. Obviously, I wanted the best in the game, and there's no better than you.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that.
So, Dom, I know you've talked about this fight so much, Mayweather-McGregor. Here we are sitting, now we're just at this point days away. You've broken down this fight. You've talked about it a lot. Has your opinion changed much, in the lead up to the fight in terms of what you've seen, the little bit of footage we've seen of the guys maybe sparring or training, or has your opinion always kind of stayed the same on how you expect this fight to play out?
Well, realistically, what it comes down to with the McGregor train is he's upset a lot of people. He's done things that a lot of people that have been unprecedented in MMA, and he's beaten, frankly, a lot of guys that a lot of people didn't think he could beat. So, with all that chalked up, plus his monster following, he was the next guy that made sense to fight Mayweather. Mayweather's fought everybody on it. That's proved to be the best boxer in the world. Never been beaten. And so, who else would you fight that makes sense when you've made as much money as Mayweather has? He's made more money off one single fight than any fighter on earth. And that's never been because of the opponent that he's facing. That's always been 100% because Mayweather is that big of a draw, essentially. Now you get this kid from Ireland coming up, screaming, yelling, angry, saying he's the best, knowing he's the best, believing proving he's the best. Mayweather's like, there's my next money train. So regardless of whether Mayweather thinks his fight is challenging or not, there is money in the fight because McGregor is a promotional marketing machine. So why would you take a fight with anybody else on earth if you could take a fight with one of the better promotional marketing machines in the world today, in not just Conor McGregor, but also in the UFC by fighting Conor McGregor? So you're doubling up on your by fighting McGregor, not even worried about taking a beating in there because he's fought every high-level boxer in the world. So he's already at peace saying, This guy's not even a high-level boxer like I am. So I'm going to go in there and make more money with a bigger, better marketing machine than ever against a guy who's never competed at the highest level in boxing the way I have. This is easy money for me. And if you're Conor McGregor, it's easy money for him. Win, lose, or draw, this is a win-win situation. He literally has to get – he gets 6 rounds with Mayweather, it's a win for him. If he goes the distance, he wins. If he goes – if he doesn't get finished, he wins. There's a lot of ways McGregor wins in this matchup just because of who Mayweather is and what Mayweather has done and how good Mayweather actually really is.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me ask you, Dom, my audience, of course, from Twitter, my podcast, things like that, are more MMA fans than boxing fans, but I know you study all aspects of the sport. Can you give us a sense? Everyone always talks about Floyd Mayweather's defense. He's a defensive wonder. I've watched a ton of his fights. I can tell you right now, I know the guy's a defensive wonder, but can you explain for us in your own terms what makes Mayweather such a defensive boxer, why he's so good, and why it is so hard to hit him?
Well, it's a couple things. One, he's faster than people give him credit for, and he hasn't lost his speed over time. He's got an incredible work ethic, so his speed stays. Besides his speed, which is a huge problem, is his speed. That's probably his biggest weapon, is his speed. Besides that, he's been getting punched and punches thrown at him since he was 5 years old. So he knows every single way you can throw 2 weapons at him that it's possible. Like, there's only so many ways you can throw your left hand and your right hand. Mayweather has seen every single style of that since he was 5 years old. So the mixture of that with the fact that he's got a gift of speed and he's also got a nasty work ethic, and on top of that, he also has a pad-holding style that he mixes it up. He goes to the body, pure power, and then he goes back to where you see him showing off, touching his shoulders, like not looking at the camera while he's hitting the pads. It doesn't look like effective pad work, but what that is it's counter-striking techniques. It doesn't look like, look, he's not moving his feet, his arms aren't stretching out. That's not even what the drill's for. The drill is for when you hit him on the shoulder, when you miss one of your punches by arm punching him or trying to hit him in the head and you hit his shoulder, he has counterattacks to you missing him, which shuts down any of your offense from that point. So he has counters after you miss him, he has counters when you hit him, and he has counters that also shut down your defense and he has counters that shut down your offense so that your best weapons he can kind of take away round by round. And remember, Mayweather's gift is 12 rounds because he reads what you throw, picks you apart, makes you miss, makes you pay. And it's a slow process, but he slowly embarrasses you throughout the fight by outthinking you, using the ring to his advantage, using the clock to his advantage, and winning round by round with strategy instead of just pure brass.
Yeah.
And all these things make him hard to deal with defensively because he understands the clock. He understands when you're tired. He understands when to rest. He understands when to grab you. He understands when to just bob and weave. He understands when to put himself on the ropes and let you throw at his arms so that you waste your own energy, and now he can come back with his own offense. These are all things you learn with thousands of rounds in the ring. And plain and simple, you can't give back time. Now, McGregor has a great shot because of all the MMA guys. He's got the skills. That's why he's out there right now with the height and the weight and the power. But realistically, if you look at this on paper, I mean, it's hard to bet against Floyd Mayweather ever. He's literally been the greatest of all time when it comes to boxing alone. We call an MMA fight, everybody knows this is McGregor's fight. But a boxing match like this, it's a tough fight for McGregor to win. Can he do it? Yes, I'd say he has about 4 to 6 rounds to get this done. And if it goes 6, I'd be shocked, He has to McGregor has to try to finish Mayweather within the first 6 rounds, because after that, rolling before that, it just depends.
Yeah. If you were his coach, Dom, and you were looking at this fight, what advice would you give Conor McGregor to finish the fight within those 4 to 6 rounds? We consider all day and say he has a powerful left hand, he has knockout power, we know that, but strategically, how can Conor McGregor beat Floyd Mayweather?
Well, realistically, the time that Mayweather's the most open when you study some of his film, it's pretty much only when he's being offensive himself. when he's being defensive and knowing that you're throwing, he sees things coming. So it's tough. But if you can counter him, that's probably the best tactic, is going counter for counter, power for speed against Mayweather. So anytime Mayweather touches you, just counter back real nasty with a long 3-punch combination as hard as you can. All he has to do is touch you. Just put one little hand on you and just wing as hard as you can a 3-punch combination if I'm McGregor. Besides that, he's got to get his offense in line with his range. He's got to make sure that he's ripping the body of Mayweather and not leading to the head too much, because that's where all Mayweather's offense comes off of. Counterability is from the head most of the time. It's easier to slip your offensive headshots and counter you to the body and back to the head if you're Mayweather, if McGregor's going head instead of the body. So McGregor has to rip the body early, look to set up the big head shots in the second and third round, fourth round, and keep that range, man. He's got to keep that range. He's got that southpaw range. He's got the height. He's got the weight. So his best bet literally is countering. We've seen Mayweather pretty much only get caught when he's coming in for his own offense, and you got to try to read that offense and counter him. McGregor does have that timing, does have that power, and he does have that skill set. I mean, that's something we've seen in his matchup. We saw with Eddie Alvarez, and we saw it with Jose Aldo, that he can time one good shot and finish from there, and we've seen it. So that's what we're all counting on. We're counting on the big upset against one of the greatest boxers of all time, the defense genius in Mayweather, and we're all hoping to see one of the greatest upsets of all time. And with Conor McGregor coming out on top of this win, if you're an MMA guy, I mean, I know I'm hoping for an upset just because I'm part of the MMA community, and this is huge. And McGregor's doing a lot for us in the sense of just bringing notoriety to the sport, crossing over the fans and everything else. So, you know, I give my best wishes to McGregor out there in a very tough matchup, and I hope he can pull it off and do an upset stand for all of MMA. You know, I think that's why this is getting so much drive, is that if people want to see if anybody can upset Floyd Mayweather, he's that good, and nobody's been able to. Can Conor do it? That's what we want to see.
Yeah. Dom, one of the things I've heard from a lot of people going into this fight that is if McGregor wants to beat Mayweather, he has to make it ugly. He has to make it, you know, he has to work from the clinch. He has to kind of beat him up a little bit there. He cannot go out there and simply try to outbox Floyd Mayweather, because 49 other boxers have tried and 49 other guys have failed. Do you agree with that? Do you agree that Conor has to, you know, not make it dirty as in a dirty fighter, but he has to make this kind of ugly? Kind of like the way I've compared it is what Marcos Maidana did in his first fight with Floyd, where he kind of made it an ugly fight, and it kind of threw Floyd off a little bit.
Yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying, but now we got to really be realistic and look at the tactics and the habits of each fighter. And Conor McGregor doesn't have a style that anything resembles Maidana's. Maidana throws reckless overhands and hooks, and he had a good good game plan, and he hurt Mayweather, but he didn't beat him. And McGregor, just plain and simple, doesn't throw punches anywhere near the way that Maidana does. It's a different style. It's a different timing. It's a different sharpness. It's a different power. So I think that if you really want to use a real comparison for how McGregor could possibly try to fight Mayweather, it'd be like how Bernard Hopkins fought everybody through his entire career. He'd throw some combos. He'd clinch. He'd dirty box. Throw combos, clinch, dirty box, get out, create space, jab, sway in, dirty box. And that's how we could see McGregor mix in a different game plan. But don't forget, just like all these MMA fans want to see McGregor do that and make it ugly, boxing fans know that that is a tactic that an MMA fighter would use, because the tactician point wouldn't quite be the same in the free-flowing movement for an MMA fighter versus a boxer. So you better believe they're going to have all of Mayweather's referees in there keeping him safe, not letting you grab a hold of him. When was the last time you saw anybody grab a hold of Floyd Mayweather? When was the last time you didn't see the ref get on a fighter, get after them for touching Floyd Mayweather? I mean, I've seen Kenny Bayless or get on fighters like, hey, get on. They keep Mayweather safe. He is the money machine for that organization. He runs the organization. He is Showtime for those people. You come to them, there was Showtime. All these things are keeping him safe. They're not going to let McGregor grab a hold of him. I'm sorry to say, but MMA fans think that boxing is going to let an MMA fighter that's known for grappling grab a hold of a boxer and just make it ugly and push their head down and whip them around. I don't see boxing letting that happen to Mayweather. He barely get a hand on him. So it's not that he couldn't do it. It's not that McGregor couldn't fight that style like B-Hop against Mayweather. I still think that boxing's going to let it happen. I think that they're going to force these guys to stay apart. And because McGregor is a southpaw, you got to remember there's going to be a lot of possibility for clash of heads. Anytime there's a conventional versus southpaw matchup, there's a lot of clash of heads. So that being said, they're also going to be watching for that. Those two things tell me that they're not going to let this be some dirty, brawly style match. They're going to keep it as clean as they can, especially because it's MMA versus boxing.
Yeah. This may sound like a stupid question, Don, but I'm going to ask it because there's been a lot of people talking about this. You know, Conor McGregor is a very powerful fighter. We've seen what he's done to guys like Jose Aldo and Chad Mendez and Eddie Alvarez, knocking guys out. But how much will his power translate into boxing when you're using the heavier gloves? Obviously, it's a different style of punching, things like that. I mean, I know it sounds stupid, but in reality, how much will his power translate into the fight with Floyd Mayweather, and will that matter?
No, it's not stupid. I mean, to me, that's not a dumb question at all because a lot of people don't know that we're wearing half the size gloves in MMA. I mean, that's half the weight. So that makes your hand twice as lethal. So when you put that big boxing glove on, you better believe everybody who gets hit by a boxing glove can take more punches that way. It doesn't necessarily take away the power. All it does, those gloves, those boxing gloves, they prevent cuts from happening quite as easily as they do in MMA gloves. And it also allows the boxer to stay up standing a little bit more when they get hit with big shots. So that does make a difference. And that's why we've had so many more problems in boxing than we have in mixed martial arts with real, like, catastrophic brain injuries because the boxing gloves try to keep the fighters up a little bit longer. They can take more punishment for a longer period of time with the big gloves on than you can getting hit with the mixed martial arts glove. You take one punch, you're down, and then they're not getting a steady 8 count. You're probably getting finished, or you're getting choked, or getting punched from ground and count. So it's just a different. You take more abrupt damage with one shot in an MMA glove, and you take more cumulative damage over time with the boxing glove in order to get the person out of there. So it definitely gives Mayweather a little bit more leeway on that one-shot power than he would have it in the MMA glove. That's the question.
Yeah. Dom, before I get you out here, I'll just ask you this. I mean, I know you've said that, in your head, you're going to root for Conor McGregor because, as an MMA guy, you want to see him do well. I think most MMA people would agree, myself included. But ultimately, if you're willing to make a pick and you're willing to make a prediction, do you just ultimately see this being just a tough fight for Conor to win? Do you ultimately favor Floyd Mayweather to come out on top?
There's no doubt in anybody's mind when you look at this analyst, like from an analyst point of view, it should be a shutout, Floyd Mayweather. It really should. I mean, the guy's unbelievable. The things he's done is unprecedented, as I've said, in his defense as well. And so the big thing that makes it extremely, extremely hard matchup for McGregor. But again, this is where McGregor has done the best, and that's why he's in this position, because he earned it by every single time he's been in the uphill battle. He believed in himself, found a way to get out of it, and to get the win. And if anybody can do it, I believe it's going to be Conor in the MMA community against Floyd Mayweather. I really believe that if anybody can do it in the MMA community, it's going to be him. But yes, this is a very tough fight, and it should be Floyd Mayweather's fight on paper. But like I said, I give McGregor a chance for about 4 to 6 rounds top. 6 rounds top. If he goes past 6 at the end of the fight. Basically, for me, it's a 6-round title fight, not a 12-round title fight. That's about how long McGregor has, in my opinion, to try to adjust and land that big shot before Mayweather adjusts to him.
Yeah, I agree. Dom, you're the best in the business, man. I can't say thank you enough for joining me today. I'd love to have you on after the fight to hear you break down the action because, as I said, no one does it better than you in this sport, and that's why I wanted to have you on. I appreciate it. And like I said, enjoy the fight, and hopefully we can catch up with you afterwards.
Damon, thanks for having me, man. Have a good day.
All right, you too, Dom. Talk to you soon, buddy.
Go. Check it out.
You're listening to Fight Society with Damon Martin and Jeremy Lober.
Check it out.
Not bad, my friend. Dominick Cruz, Damon. That is really cool, man. You might want to rewind that and check that out a little bit and go over that as the fight gets closer and closer.
Dominick knows his stuff, man.
No doubt.
Very smart guy, very knowledgeable guy, understands the sport, understands both sports. Our other guest we're going to talk to today is kind of on the same playing field in a way. We're going to talk a little bit to former WBA champion Austin Trout. He's fought a lot of good guys in his career, fought Miguel Cotto and guys like that. Austin, actually, he trains out of New Mexico, but he's actually done training with Carlos Condit and some of the guys at Jackson's before. So I wanted to get him on. We'll talk to him in a little bit, but I wanted to get him on to get his perspective of, a championship boxer who has sparred and trained with MMA guys, because MMA guys do have different stances and different, striking
Absolutely.
and things like that. So I want to get
in the open workout. We saw Conor switching back and forth, still had that deep karate stance, which was interesting.
Yeah, so I wanted to get a perspective on a guy who is a boxer, a championship boxer, who has also trained with MMA guys, because he did, he sparred with Carlos Condit. He's done some training with guys at Jackson's, and Austin had a very I would say he had a very unique perspective because he has done both. He's trained, with MMA guys, and obviously he's a championship level boxer. But we'll talk to him in a little bit, and you'll find out his opinion on Mayweather McGregor. It's so funny because the split for this fight is it's not 50-50 by any stretch of the imagination, because I would say every boxing person is picking Mayweather, and I would say about 90% of MMA people are picking Mayweather. But about there's a 10% sliver that are giving McGregor a chance, and I would say those are all in the MMA camp. I don't think anyone in the boxing world is giving Conor a legitimate chance to beat Floyd. No, I've not heard one boxer. I've talked to a lot of boxing people, and like I said, I'm not a boxing guy. I'm not a boxing guy. But I've talked to a lot of boxing experts that I trust, and not a single one of them is giving a Conor a chance. But I don't know. Am I wrong, Lope, in thinking that, when you're...
No.
Here's my opinion. I said this about Paulie Malignaggi last week, and I'll say it again now. And this isn't a dig on Paulie. But I think if Paulie had lost or got knocked down or had, a bad sparring session with Floyd Mayweather, I don't think we'd ever hear about it. I don't think if Floyd put out pictures.
No. Well, it's only relevant because it's Conor McGregor.
It's relevant because it's Conor, because you can't be perceived to lose face to an MMA guy. He's a 2-division champion in boxing. He can't be losing to Conor McGregor, even in a sparring session.
No, you're absolutely right.
And that's why I think a lot of boxing experts, they're not gonna pick it. I mean, I believe they legitimately believe that Floyd's gonna win, but I don't think any boxing person is gonna step out on a limb and say Conor's got a legit chance of winning this fight.
Now, what about what happened with Kailin Curran?
Oh, dude,
Kailin Curran.
I don't want to get into this. Yeah, there's been some photos that are out there.
So is this like a celebrity jihad thing, or
it's like one of those things.
It's okay, because those celebrity photos. She's been hacked. Basically, she sent some intimate photos that were meant for her boyfriend, which I just think is kind of gnarly. For somebody to do. She's got nothing to be embarrassed about. She's a beautiful girl, but it's a little disheartening for sure.
It's disheartening, and it's creepy, and it's. Yeah, man, I don't know. This is the society we live in. I mean, you remember the big controversy last year? Was it last year with the whole Jennifer Lawrence and all the celebrities?
For sure.
Was that last year?
Yeah, that was that celebrity jihad website.
Yeah, was that thing? Yeah. So they did all that stuff, and they released all that stuff, and it's like you feel celebrities give up a certain amount of privacy because they're celebrities, and I get that. You know what I mean? When they're out in public and fans want to stop them for pictures and stuff, I think that's an okay thing. That's part of being a celebrity, and you have to live with that, and you'd hope that people would be cool about it. Like celebrities would be cool about it. There was a story when I was at Comic-Con, this is going way off the rails, where one of the kids from Stranger Things was at dinner, and a fan came up and was like, "Oh, I'm a huge fan, can I get a picture?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah, but can you wait till after I'm done eating? I'm with my, I'm eating, whatever. Can I do it later?" And they're like, "Oh, okay." And so after dinner's over, he goes over and takes a picture, and apparently the kid, his parents yelled at him, and they're like, "Don't you ever do that again. A fan comes up and wants to acknowledge you, you take that picture. You sign that autograph."
Oh, no kidding.
Because they're like, in 10 years, people could not care about you at all.
Fast.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You always honor your fans.
Feldman.
Honor your fans. And he's like, my mom and dad yelled at me for telling the fan to wait. He's like, you take that picture. I was just like, that's a damn good parent right there. Exactly. You sacrifice a bit of privacy as a celebrity, but you shouldn't sacrifice everything. And that's where this kind of stuff comes in.
And stuff that's way embarrassing. maybe just don't put that on your phone.
Well,
I think at this point, unfortunately, you have to call a spade, and that's sort of what it is right now, right?
To a point, I guess, but at the same time, I mean, they're not. I mean, they're having a moment. I mean, this is the society we live in. I mean, people exchange pictures with their significant others. It's not that uncommon. You have a wife, I have a girlfriend.
Yeah, I don't think it's that uncommon. I mean, I don't do it for that reason. It's just, you see it happen over and over and over to people. So it's kind of. But
that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think you should have to change, who you are as a person so dramatically because there's some scumbag on the internet who's going to try to break into your account and steal your photos or steal your information or whatever.
Right.
Like, it's sad. It's just sad. Like, it's a sad existence that's what people decide to do. Now, listen, I'm not, there are good, but probably this is going to get me in even hotter water when I say this. There are good uses of hacking, I suppose, depending on what you're using it for, but this is not one of them. Like, I don't know. It just seems really low class to go after somebody for something like that. And it's so private and it's just like, I don't know. I feel bad for him. I feel bad for anyone that goes through that. I feel bad for the celebrities like Jennifer Lawrence when she went through that last year. Like, it's terrible.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and it feels invasive and it feels like, dirty. I have 2 daughters. So, I think it's kind of fucked up.
Yeah. Like that, like think about it, like 15 years from now when you're a dad and your daughter is like, in her 20s. Mm-hmm. Think about that. Do you want them to go through that?
Hell no.
You know what I mean?
No, definitely not. All right, man. Well, we got one more interview left, so let's set this up and let's hear from this guy, man.
Yeah,
I love this.
Former WBA champion Austin Trout. He has trained, obviously one of the best boxers in the world. Has fought a lot of good guys. Fought Miguel Cotto. Fought a lot of guys. I believe he fought Canelo Alvarez.
This is going to be insight, man.
And so we're going to talk to him about this fight with Conor and Floyd. He's also trained with Carlos Condit in the past as well, so he has a little bit of a different insight than the typical boxer who has just boxed. He's also trained with MMA guys, so he's kind of done a little bit of what guys have tried to do with Conor lately. He's training with the MMA guys as a boxer. So he had a very unique perspective, and so I want to kind of get his thoughts on Mayweather-McGregor. It is the talk of the town, of course. Floyd Mayweather takes on Conor McGregor August 26th in Las Vegas. And the man I welcome into the show today is a guy I've talked to numerous times. He's from New Mexico. He knows the MMA scene, of course. He's one of the best boxers in the world. Austin Trout. Austin, how is everything?
Hey, everything is lovely. How you doing, Damon?
I'm good, man. I appreciate taking time to chat with me. I know we've talked in the past and obviously about your boxing career and doing a little MMA, but I'm sure like everybody else, you're intrigued by this Mayweather-McGregor fight, right?
Absolutely. It's very interesting. As much as slack as it's getting, I bet you everybody's still going to watch it. I am.
Absolutely. Now, Austin, you have a much more unique perspective on this fight, which is one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you, because not only are you obviously in the same weight category that this fight's taking place, of course, a champion in this category, you fought some of the best guys in the world in this division, but you've also done a little bit of training in the past with a couple of mixed martial arts guys. I know you did a little work with Carlos Condit in the past, so I imagine you probably have a little different perspective on what to expect in this fight than most boxers or even mixed martial artists, correct?
I feel like I do, and even being in Las Vegas, we have a bunch of MMA fighters that like working on stand-up, such as Billy Colon and Randy McCarthy. And one thing I can tell you, they're just 2 complete different sports. They're not in the same category. I mean, they are combat sports. That's the only category they're in. But they're 2 completely different sports.
Yeah, you've you have sparred with them. You have trained with fighters. Now, of course, I know you haven't sparred completely with Conor McGregor necessarily. But what is the biggest difference when you spar, when you go with a mixed martial arts guy in a boxing sparring session? I assume you're not sitting there kickboxing with these guys. So what's the biggest thing that you have noticed with the MMA guys you've worked with?
They're easier to get hit, but that is because, in a sense, there's some technique that you can get away with in boxing that you wouldn't have been able to get away with in MMA. So whenever they just stick to boxing, they can't exploit some of those angles that they have as far with the takedown. They leave themselves pretty much open with for punches. Not to generalize the whole group as one, but I've tend to notice that MMA fighters are not as accustomed as getting punched in the face as much as boxers are. You know, we've been fighting since we were, 10 years old. Whereas a lot of MMA fighters, they start as adults. So I think that's another also difference between the boxers and MMA. I'm not saying that every punch is going to knock them out. It's just they react differently to punches, And again, it's not grouping all of them. That's just, the ones I've worked with and seen.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, Austin, because, again, this is your weight division, so I'm sure, as you fought Miguel Cotto and Canelo Alvarez, so, of course, you've been right there fighting a guy like a Floyd Mayweather. For the MMA audience, let's just say, kind of give me a sense, I know this is going to sound like such a crazy question, but give me a sense of how good is Floyd Mayweather and how hard is Floyd Mayweather to hit in a boxing match?
Well, he's like, one thing, he's a defensive genius. The angles he has, and not to mention his physical stature, he may look like he's only 5'7", but he does carry, a 75-inch reach. So when he leans in and hits you from way far out, and you think you can hit him back, he just leans back and he's out of range. He's he's a master of being in and out and rangy. So he's very difficult to hit. As a matter of fact, he's won a lot of fights on just not getting hit. That's how good a defense he has.
Yeah. When you think about, the way, and again, as an observer, of course, you're a pro boxer, but as an observer watching a guy like Conor McGregor, what are your thoughts on him, of what you've seen of Conor McGregor, at least in the octagon? Because, again, it's a different sport, so we can't say he's going to be the same guy in a boxing match.
Well, and most of his wins come from a stand-up knockout. He does have good hands for an MMA fighter. Great hands. But he also has a lot of good things to his game. Like he's great with his kicks. I believe his takedown defense is good. He needs to work on his ground game more, and that's me coming from a very basic fan of the MMA game. But his strengths are his stand-up. Now, but the difference is that's for MMA, because whether my wrestling is good or not, which is not needed in boxing at all, but when I was a decent enough wrestler, thinking I could go to the MMA octagon, it's not the same league. Like Floyd going into the octagon, which he would never do, because he knows he wouldn't stand a chance for Conor. Even if Conor agreed to just, do stand-up, Conor's kicks, knees, takedowns alone would beat Floyd up.
Yeah. Do you, as a boxer and as a championship boxer, do you take any offense to the fact that this fight's getting put together, that a guy like Conor McGregor with no professional boxing experience, no professional fights, is getting a chance to fight a guy like Floyd Mayweather, a guy that, a lot of people in your category, in your weight division, would love the chance to do if he ever came out of retirement? Or do you understand why a fight like this is getting made?
Well, of course I understand the money is in it, and honestly, whether you like the fight or not, it's good for boxing, because everybody's talking about boxing right now. And the biggest fight in UFC happened in a boxing ring. Isn't this the biggest fight in UFC today? And it's a boxing match. So, that's a win for boxing for sure. But personally, as a fighter who's been doing this all his life, I feel like I've struggled and climbed to get to where I am. It is a bit of a slap in the face that an 0-0 fighter can go and jump in and make multi-million-dollar. But I guess that's just with me ignoring what he's done in the octagon. It's really what warranted him this fight. So, I guess I got to stop being a hater. Let him do what he does. When it's my turn, it'll be my turn. But Conor knows he's smart, because had he called me, I would have whooped Conor's ass quick, for way less money. So, he called Floyd out to get his ass whooped from Floyd for a lot more money.
With that being said, and again, because as I said, Austin, you have trained with mixed martial arts guys. I remember the first time we spoke is when you did some sparring with Carlos Condit, who is a phenomenal mixed martial artist and a very good stand-up fighter in his own right.
I was just going to say, a good stand-up fighter.
Yeah. So with that being said, just being completely honest, do you see any chance outside of the, you walk into a punch, that kind of thing, but I'm saying in your logical boxer's mind, do you see any chance Conor McGregor wins this fight?
No, not a chance. He doesn't have a chance in hell. It's going to be interesting to watch while it happens. In the press conference, I think it's going to be live, because they both have big mouths. But he don't have a chance. He's going to get eaten up. unless there's some foul play going on where they made some kind of agreement that they want to make a rematch. But no, he does not have a chance.
Yeah, knowing
look what Diaz did to him. Sorry, look what Nate Diaz did the first time.
Yeah. When you see this, when you know Mayweather, how good he is, and I think most people would say Mayweather is one of the greatest of all time, clearly, the best boxer of his generation. How do you see this fight playing out? If you were, you're sitting down playing analyst, like, how do you see this playing out? Do you think it ends up being just Floyd picks him apart and puts him away? Do you see it possibly going 12 rounds? I mean, how do you, if you're predicting it, how do you think this fight plays out?
No, I see Floyd putting him away. I see him picking him apart and putting him away.
Do you think it goes deeper than 5 or 6 rounds, or do you think it's pretty quick?
No, I think it goes deeper than 5 or 6 rounds. That's not going to go to late rounds. I say mid-late rounds, 7 or 8. Boy, to put him away.
Yeah. Is there any part of you as a boxer, and I know you watch mixed martial arts, so I know it's not like you're trying to, as a detriment, but is there any part of you as a boxer that you kind of have to root for Floyd Mayweather in a moment like this? Because this is, they say boxing wouldn't take a hit if Floyd lost, and they say UFC wouldn't take a hit if Conor lost. Now, I agree with that, because I think if Conor gets diced up, it's kind of expected. Floyd is the best. Yeah, but if Floyd somehow loses, let's be honest, that would be a big deal. So, is there any part of you that you do find yourself a little bit rooting for Floyd Mayweather to do well in this fight?
A lot of it, even if I was in the fight. I'm a fan of Floyd, so a lot of it. I'm definitely rocking with Floyd on this one.
Now, I'm curious, Austin, because as I said, you did work with Carlos Condit, and you've worked with some mixed martial artists in the past. If Conor McGregor called you up and said, hey, we want to bring you in and help out Conor, would you ever be willing to do that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. What an experience, I'd probably get to go to Europe.
No better way to make a little extra cash and spar with a guy who's going to make some money, right?
Exactly.
And you said at the end of the day, for all the talk, for all the chatter about this fight, it's still something you'll watch. It's something I'll watch. I guess that's the whole point, right? They're just trying to get people to watch, and you and I are both sitting here today saying we're absolutely going to watch.
Exactly. You're going to watch whether you love it or hate it.
Awesome interview. It's Loper and Damon Martin. You can get at us at Jeremy Loper, JeremyLoper. I'm on Instagram, on Twitter. You can check me out on YouTube, Loper and Randy with an I, and at Damon Martin. Also, if you guys are into TV, man, you got to check out Damon's website, Nerdcore Movement. Everything from Game of Thrones, Walking Dead, to the Avengers.
Huh?
And what's the new series coming out on Netflix? The Defenders, right?
Defenders, yeah, on Friday. That's the combination of Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, and Luke Cage. And
so cool.
And there will be no none of that.
Skip Bayless. It's been quite the show, man. And thanks so much to everybody who's been supporting us on this show. You can use the hashtag Fight Society, and we'll find you guys on Twitter. I found a bunch of people that tweeted us last time and checked out our Instagram. So please feel free to reach out and leave some questions. We'll read those on the air. Any comments that you might have about the show, stuff that you like, stuff that you don't like, stuff that you would add to the show. So
you can even hashtag and we'll respond to that also. We'll respond to also.
Just in case.
Just in case you can't get Fight Society in there, what you can do
Skip Bayless, you silly bitch.
Somebody needs to make a rap remix of that.
All right, you guys have an awesome week. Is there anything else you'd like to get in before we get out of here, Damon?
Next week, Dan Hardy.
Shorty job here.
Dan Hardy's going to join us next week to break down Mayweather McGregor.
So sick,
and we're going to break down Mayweather McGregor. Next week, we're going to make our official fight picks. Next week on the Fight Society podcast, we are less than 2 weeks away from Mayweather McGregor.
So close. Damon Martin, I'm Jeremy Loper. This is Fight Society, and we are out, guys. Thanks a lot for listening.